Good morning. If you're on the West Coast, good afternoon if you're on the East Coast, and if you're in Europe or other, good evening and or good night if you're on the way far other side of the planet. Welcome to Proof of Work. I'm your host, Gerald, aka the Crypto Oracle. We want to start out by thanking all our sponsors. We want to thank Quantum Expeditions. You should see something coming up in a second, I would hope or think. And what is Quantum Expeditions? They take methane flare and or wasted energy and turn it into Bitcoin mining and make money out of it. Also want to thank sponsors at Shieldfolio. They make a seed phrase book that is written in a special ink. You have to use ultraviolet light to read the seed phrase, and is waterproof. And again, if you've written your seed phrase down, there we go. There's the Quantum Expeditions. If you know anything about crypto and seed phrases, you should obviously never take a screenshot of your seed phrase, especially if it's a live device, right? That means, does it have a SIM card and is it connected to the mobile web 24/7? Yeah, don't take a screenshot. If you have an older device that is just used in your network, I always tell people that's way less unsecure, I guess I should say, but still it can be information can be garnered from there. By putting it into something like this, like Shieldfolio, you're protecting your seed phrases from prying eyes. And again, they are working on one that is, I believe, fireproof. And there should be a discount code coming up for them. We want to thank everyone at De-Organized Media, and also everyone at Bitcoin Live. And I want to thank, obviously, my producer, Nick, who's back. And we just want to say some prayers for his foot and his healing. But let's get in today's show. What is it about? I've been on this bandwagon for a long time now, probably like 6, maybe even 8 to 10 months long, saying that Bitcoin, if we put Bitcoin and AI in an equation, Bitcoin, then you put the greater than symbol, then AI. And that's what pretty much, we have talked about this before on other episodes, but that's what this show is primarily about and how we're going to explain that. Firstly, I think Nick has a video pulled up. This has been the big story of the week. This 4-star admiral was in Congress talking about Bitcoin. So, roll tape.
We have a node on the Bitcoin network right now. We're not mining Bitcoin. We're using it to monitor, and we're doing a number of operational tests to secure and protect networks using the Bitcoin protocol. We have a node on the Bitcoin network right now.
Oh, that's the short one.
Bitcoin.
Darn.
We're using it to.
Let me see if I have a longer one. But there's a longer clip. I thought I had sent that one. That's the short version. That's just a snippet. Give me a second. I'm scrolling through all my bookmarks to see if I have another video of it, and I don't think that I do. But let me just go over it. Basically, what the Admiral discussed was exactly what we've discussed many times on the show, me, Nick, and MattySats when he's been here many times, is that this is Bitcoin is a national security issue, right? Jason P. Lowry wrote a book about it I think it's called Soft War. And this is the beginning of that, right? Where Bitcoin is a power projection. It is energy based. Oh, did you find the longer clip? Go right ahead. Thank you, Nick.
testified that Bitcoin held potential as a tool for national security. Recent research from the Bitcoin Policy Institute estimates China has approximately 194,000 Bitcoins, while the United States has approximately 328,000 Bitcoins. In this era of digital competition, would it be to our strategic advantage to maintain a lead in this regard as we do with other strategic resources like gold and oil?
Sir, our interest in Bitcoin is as a tool of cryptography, a blockchain, and reusable proof of work as an additional tool to secure networks and to project power. And so I think this protocol is here to stay. I think the computer science of it has direct implications for the projection of power, not financial, but from a computer science standpoint, from the securing of networks. And so I am supportive of those applications. All instruments of national power are important, but from the military application standpoint, my interest in Bitcoin is as a computer science tool as projection of power.
I appreciate that. I agree with you. And I'd also like to hear your thoughts on monetary competition over the coming decades. What role does Bitcoin play in spreading digital property rights?
Well, people use Bitcoin today, right now, to protect their own intellectual property. And that's the reusable proof of work protocol that's combined with blockchain for accountability and cryptography for security. And so that's the role that I see for it. I see direct national security implications, and then I'm supportive for anything that maintains our own dollar dominance worldwide.
I appreciate that. Do you think we're adequately prepared to counter China's strategic direction regarding digital assets?
I think that our recent act with the Genius Act is a great step forward that moves us in that direction.
And lastly, I'll ask you, as we continue to craft the NDAA, what authorities and resources does INDOPACOM need to address as respects the national security dimensions of digital assets?
Presently, we're in experimentation, so I'll give you a deeper look into that. Presently, we have a node on the Bitcoin network right now. We're not mining Bitcoin. We're using it to monitor, and we're doing a number of operational tests to secure and protect networks using the Bitcoin protocol.
I appreciate that, Admiral. Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, so again, we have this news that's been in the intelligence community for years, right? That this is a new form of not just money, not just a protocol, but a form of power, right? Just like how oil became, and to this day, right? The Strait of Hormuz, it's all in the news because a ton of energy still flows through it. Yeah, there's the book Soft War by Jason Lowry. Again, it starts to divert money away from these hard assets that are in the field, like drones, like Tomahawk missiles, and then we start to divert those resources towards the energy grid or towards Bitcoin mining in general, and that defends Bitcoin, right? The more efficient that the infrastructure behind the energy grid and Bitcoin's infrastructure is laid, the safer Bitcoin becomes. And again, we've also discussed this about why Bitcoin needs to, I love Texas, even though I'm a huge Eagles fan. I'm from Philly. But some of the miners, there is other states where energy is cheap. I know there's lots of cheap energy in Texas, but there's other states out there, Washington, Oregon, Idaho. The list is endless. Start spreading out. That's all I'm saying, right? But that's the beauty of Bitcoin's network, is that it has so many mining operations across the globe that if something happens in a region, like has happened in Texas, where they have had grid issues, or back in 2018 or 19, where there's southern China where they get the rainy season, they get floods. There's lots of big Bitcoin mining operations down there, and they got knocked out. It doesn't shut down Bitcoin's network, right? That's the beauty. And don't forget, there's, I think, Blockstream has, I think, 3 or 4 satellites with the node running, and that's literally they're in orbit, right? So, and there will be more people that utilize satellites and mining operations. Right now, we have big companies talking about that, right? That's not even in my list of bookmarks, but if you can find that one, Nick, I think it was it Elon and some other companies talking about, putting data centers in space. This is brilliant, right? This is totally brilliant. And will happen. Why? Because the temperatures of space are so cold that it's perfect for data centers, AI centers, Bitcoin mining operations. I think at first it's not going to just happen overnight, but at some point, these cold temperatures and it makes these things more decentralized, right? If we have all these AI data centers just in like New York City or another big like San Francisco, for example, it just makes those protocols and or LLMs or etc. More vulnerable to security threats, right? Decentralization, it's not just the future, right? It's been around for a long time. Just look at oh, here we go. Here you go. Yeah, play this real quick. Go ahead.
Cumulative. I mean, the next step beyond Earth data centers is our Earth orbital data centers. And we'll be launching with SpaceX orbital data centers at the 100 to 200 gigawatt per year level. Not cumulative, I mean per year. And ultimately, we see a path to maybe launching as much as a terawatt per year of compute from Earth. But what if you want to go beyond a mere terawatt per year? In order to do that, you have to go to the moon. So by having factories on the moon, building AI satellites, and having a mass driver, which is the kind of thing you really only learn about or read about in science fiction, but we're going to make it real. We're actually going to have a mass driver on the moon. And if you do that, you can go several orders of magnitude greater. You can go to 1,000 gigawatts or more per year, and ultimately get to maybe a millionth and then 1,000th and maybe even a few percent of the sun's energy. It's difficult to imagine what an intelligence of that scale would think about, but it's going to be incredibly exciting to see it happen.
Yeah, and again, by getting onto the moon and getting into space, not only do we have these really cold temperatures that are excellent for data centers and for Bitcoin mining operations, is the fact that solar energy is 100% uptime when you're in most of the orbit of Earth, right? And especially if that operation is on the moon, you're picking up sun most of the time. If you're on the one side of the moon, you're picking up sun almost 24/7. So this is why these things become very feasible, because it makes everything's costs go down, right? Your energy production ratio for whether it's Bitcoin mining or AI data center goes significantly down once these operations start to become very commonplace, right? Then running one of these centers cost probably goes down 20 to 30% because you always have it running off solar, especially if it's on the moon, solar operations, running your Bitcoin mining operation, whether it's on the moon or it's a AI data center, it makes that cost go down. Now, this is clear why they're doing this. Nick, if you could pull up that video by, I think it's Josh Kale is the post. It's I think a bankless clip. Yeah, that's the one. Let's listen to that. This is why I love AI it's an amazing tool. We've been using it for years. But this is one of the reasons that it's problematic. Roll tape.
Holding a printout of a Bloomberg article that tells the story of how 4 random people in a Discord gained access to Claude Mythos, the most powerful model in the world, when they absolutely should not have been able to. This story is insane. So speedrun on Mythos, for those that don't know, Anthropic, in their own words, has stated that it can identify and exploit vulnerabilities in every major operating system and every web browser when a user directs it to. Every single one. Windows, macOS, Linux, iOS, Android, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, all of them. Nothing is safe. And in their words again, this is a cyber weapon. Anthropic knows it, which is why they built Project Glasswing. Glasswing is the gated program Anthropic uses to pick which companies are allowed to touch Mythos. Currently, that list is Amazon, Apple, Cisco, and a few dozen other organizations. The idea is defensive. Let the biggest software vendors figure out where the holes are in their software and patch them before the rest of the world gets access to these hyper-intelligent cybersecurity models. Right now, per Bloomberg, financial institutions and government agencies on both sides of the Atlantic are racing to get added to that list. They have been unable to. Banks are nervous, governments are nervous. Everyone wants access to it, which is what takes us to the story today. The 4 random people that should not have gained access to it that did. So how did a private Discord channel end up with the same model Apple and Cisco are currently holding under lock and key? Well, there's 3 parts to the story. The first one, a person in the Discord had a day job doing contract work for a company that evaluates Anthropic models. Bloomberg isn't naming the company for security reasons, but that person had legitimate access to a third-party vendor environment. They were authorized to be there. They just weren't authorized to be poking at Mythos. Go figure. Second part, a company called Mercor, an AI training startup that works with most of the top AI labs, they got breached. And that breach leaked information about the naming conventions and hosting formats Anthropic used for its internal models. So they were able to kind of reverse architect the URL. We'll get to that. The third part, though, is the Discord that runs bots. And these bots crawl GitHub and other unsecure parts of the internet looking for stray references to unreleased models. A forgotten config file, a test script someone pushed by mistake, really any of these breadcrumbs they could pick up. And then you put those 3 together, the contractor access plus the leak plus these bots scanning for loose threads. They made an educated guess on where Mythos was sitting online. The guess turned out to be correct, which is crazy. They got in the same day that Anthropic announced this. Day 1, Project Glasswing existed, and these guys got access. It was probably hours, maybe minutes after the world learned about the model existed. So this happened very quickly. Now, the part that kind of made me laugh, I mean, this group is sitting on the most powerful cyber weapon ever created, probably, is using it to build simple websites, or at least that's what the Bloomberg sources say. That's what they claim. That seems a bit nonsensical. They say that they're not running cybersecurity prompts or scanning for 0 days. They're just specifically avoiding anything that might flag Anthropic systems, letting them know that they're in. Well, my friends, I fear that you have been uncovered. There's also one point to this that really sent me for a loop too, is they casually dropped at the end of this article that the group has access to a slew of other unreleased Anthropic models, not just Mythos. So the takeaways from there's a few important lessons here for any company that claims they have the most powerful model in the world and wants to gate it from the world. Well, turns out it's a lot harder than you think. I mean, on the surface, they did all the work. The leak didn't come from the lab. They designed the gated program. They vetted the partners. They did the work. The problem is that there's a lot of surface area when you get a lot of other companies involved in these things. And you're only as powerful, you're only as secure as your weakest link. And it turns out your weakest link is a public-facing URL with credentialed access from a contractor that allows them access to the model. Now, imagine this contractor gave his login credentials to someone who was a little more unfavorable than someone making websites just for fun. That seems to be a bit problematic, Anthropic. So I think the takeaway here is if you're going to drop models that are the most powerful, most dangerous things in the world, perhaps consider OPSEC a little more strongly.
Yes. So why that long-winded AI video about Mythos and Anthropic? 2 things. AI is not this golden, shining, gleaming thing on the hill that everyone thinks it is, right? That's the point I've been trying to make for the last 6 months when I say Bitcoin is superior. Bitcoin is built on encryption. Literally, they don't know how many people. They said 4, but they don't know. They don't know if that any of those 4 people share that URL with their friends or family, right? It could be a half dozen to a couple dozen. That's how things like this happen, right? Let's just be real. Had access to this most powerful large language model in the world, right? And again, I don't know how many examples they had to bring up, right? Where they put this dev company last year added AI to their just like one of these Claude bots, and it erased their whole code base, right? Erased all their projects that they were working on and the language that they're using, right? Like, holy moly, that's great. That's awesome. The Meta girl that worked at Meta who used OpenClaw and gave it access to her emails and said, yeah, can you go through my emails, pull out the important ones? And it just nuked email after email after email. She's like, stop, don't do that. Okay, erasing more emails, erasing more. So again, everyone worried about AI stealing jobs. Yes, it will steal jobs. Is it going to steal everyone's job? No, it's not. Like, this is total malarkey, especially ones where people have to interact, right? There's lots of jobs where people still have to interact, doctors, lawyers, even though AI can do a great job of scanning documents and giving you its own analysis of that document or that case. It can't do the job as somebody who's been in law for 5 or 10 years, right? Same thing with the doctor. It can give you an amazing diagnosis, but if it doesn't know these telltale little signs of this disease from that disease, when you're looking at a patient, AI can't bring in that extra data, right? Like, let's say the skin is yellow and you know it's jaundice, so there's something with the liver going on, and AI is saying, oh, it's way over here. Again, we've also discussed the inflationary attack vector, the legal attack vector, with getting just flipping the legal side on its head, that AI has, right? There's multiple lawsuits against AI already for various reasons, from people unaliving themselves to Disney has a lawsuit against Sora, and that's, I think, one of the reasons Sora went out of business. And I think that Sora going out of business was the pop moment for AI, in my opinion. I still think there's people going to build amazing tools and applications around LLMs. But again, these companies just throwing hundreds of millions of dollars at these tools, when in 10 years, some of these tools will be way deflationary. There you go. The Disney Sora fiasco shows the limits of the AI craze. These companies like Volkswagen, I Googled that one for me real quick, Nick. Volkswagen spends, I think it was like $480 million on AI. And I'm like, why? You should be throwing a couple hundred million at Bitcoin miners in your huge manufacturing facilities in Germany, because those facilities use tons of energy. Hello. Ding. Are you guys that dumb? But yes, Volkswagen, I think it was, I want to say 2023 or 2024, article comes out. Volkswagen's dumping a half, I don't know if it was a $500 million or $500 billion dollars. I'm pretty sure it was, yeah. And again, this is another problem, and this is not even part of what I was going to talk about today. This is one of the big problems that most of the auto manufacturers have been jacking up your cars' prices, because they don't do the coding, right? This is why, if you compare pricing of Teslas to all the other cars in the world, Tesla's cost of cars are like, if you look at a chart, are like this, like literally like this, compared to combustion vehicles, which keep going up. Why is that? Because they want to put in like, you know, they want to add in Android's OS instead of they had to deal with Apple. Well, then they go to like Bangalore, they go to Sweden or wherever, and they start looking for dev teams that'll do that. And then they put out contracts to multiple different parts of the world, and then that dev team gets hired and they build that. And then, let me give you just a perfect example. When I worked for this company called Just Answer, right? And they're like, people ask questions that are technical, whether it's, you know, this kind of stuff, or whatever the topic is, and they send somebody like me to help you out. And, full disclosure, this is not like illegal. I don't think bricking isn't illegal, but it should be illegal in my opinion. Oh my gosh, the name of the company just ran through my head. It's the guys that make these, you know, Nordic Track. They make, you know, ever since the internet became popular, they started making all of this workout equipment that has, you know, obviously code in it. And they're another perfect example where they build a new product and they hire a new dev team. So I was working for this company called Just Answer, and the question kept coming through. It was like, I probably saw it like maybe a half dozen to maybe a dozen times almost. What's going on with my Nordic Track? And from the research that I did, if you had the USB port, if you had a model that had a USB port, I don't know if it was if you had the model or if you didn't have the USB port, but it doesn't matter. It's regardless. If you had the USB port, you could update the firmware, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was, and you'd be cool. But if you were pre USB port, you have a very fancy paperweight, right? It's totally useless. And it's called the update syndrome, right? I came up with this theory probably like 4 or 5 years ago, where in this instance, the company is updating the whole firmware and software that runs this workout equipment. And when they go to build a new one, like I said, they go to look to that other dev team. And if that dev team's like in a knees deep into a project with another company, they're like, we can't do it, sorry. And then they have to go search for another company, and that other company might be like, well, we don't like that company wrote in this code. We don't like C++. We're going to use Rust, right? Or Go or something like that, right? And they're going to write it in a totally different code base, and it's going to have pros and cons to writing it in, you know, this language versus that language, whether it's Java or whatever. And again, then they're like, okay, we're going to design the new product. Okay, it's can do this, this, and now we want it to have Bluetooth. Oh, we got to hire another dev team. And again, just as you saw, Volkswagen's just throwing money at AI, thinking it's going to solve all these problems from top to bottom. Now, if you're in a different industry, like you're in cloud data management, okay, yeah, AI is going to be amazing for that. It's going to make it way more efficient. Or cybersecurity, where I think AI is going to become a ninja industry standard, where, you know, they're looking for people hiding in systems and backdoors where hackers and black hats can either put a data packet in, a fraudulent data packet in that just sits there and waits or sits there and monitors, or whatever the case may be. AI and cybersecurity, I think, are a winning combination and are going to make that industry become more efficient and deflationary over time, and the cost will come down for cybersecurity. But like I said, when it comes to face-to-face stuff, when it comes to like analysis that just isn't cookie cutter analysis where, you can take a step back and see a bigger picture than the AI can even see. And I'm sure AI will get to that point at some point as well. But I've heard analysis, whether it's financial or crypto, or other analysis, and some of these AIs do a very, very good job, but humans, I still think, do a better job. Nick, if you could pull up the Daniel Batten tweet about, I think it's the one where it just has an infographic where where the fuel comes from for this network versus Bitcoin and the Lightning Network. But this is another reason why I scream from the mountaintop that Bitcoin is far superior to any other technologies that people are thinking about, right? As you can clearly see, Visa and MasterCard run over 60% still on fossil fuel payments. Bitcoin is already at 52% sustainable energy. So that's either solar, wind, tidal, or hydropower, hydroelectric. And this is huge, right? So if when people say, Bitcoin is a net loss for the environment, no, this has been a falsehood that many people have been trying to propagate for so many years, that Bitcoin is like bad for the environment. No, Bitcoin is a net positive for the environment, as you can see below. We've talked about this ad nauseum on this show multiple times, that if you want that solar project to work, you should be thinking about Bitcoin mining. If you want that wind farm to work, you should be thinking about Bitcoin mining. This is why China is going to come out in the next either 6 months to a couple years and be like, of course we're mining for Bitcoin again. Do you see how much solar energy we have? They're like, yeah, Google that, pull that up. Yeah, it's 52.4. And look at that, 30 is off-grid renewable. That's insane. And 23% hydro. I would think that is it would be the other way around, where it'd be 30-40% hydroelectric, but no, that's 30% off-grid renewable. That means that's wind or solar, and that number is just going to grow and grow and grow. And again, this is why I think China comes out in the next, like I said, 6 months to a few years saying, oh, of course we're mining Bitcoin. Do you see how many solar panels we have all over the place? Damn it. It just makes sense. Oh yeah, let's share that one too. That's a good one. Where people literally in where it starts in 2017 to 2020, Bitcoin's bad for the environment. 2023, well, it's nuanced. 2025, Bitcoin mining is beneficial to the environment. 2026, without Bitcoin mining, renewable energy transition and methane mitigation at scale is not possible. These are facts. This is another reason that Bitcoin is far superior for the advancement of human civilization than AI. This is based off 20 few peer-reviewed papers, 8 independent reports, 15 sustainability magazines, Cambridge, WEF, KPMG, BlackRock, Fidelity, grid operators, renewable operators, methane mitigation specialists. So again, when we talk about methane mitigation, it's not just oil fields, right? This is dumps, municipal dumps from all over the world, where they, layer these dumps in a certain way, and they call it's like almost like lasagna. And after so many years being in the sun, that decayed matter just starts to turn into methane. And the same thing is, they find a big plume of that methane, they put a pipe into it, and then they can run it to a generator, and boom, you're mining for Bitcoin. And yeah, this is another one. the headline reads giant Yorkshire gas field to mine Bitcoin instead of boosting British energy. You've got it ass backwards, right? Like, and now if that operation's been going, they understand that they run in tandem, right? Where Bitcoin is a boon, right? There it is. Turns out the article, the headline contains some factual inaccuracies. Of course, and this, I guess, is a statement from Reabold Resources. We're exploring using Bitcoin mining during the initial pilot phase to monetize energy that could be used to fund the full operations plan to supply energy to UK's grid. So again, it's the headline is totally misleading because when you add Bitcoin operations, even though in the short term it can be inflationary, over long stretches of time, it's going to become deflationary, right? Whereas AI data centers, again, need to be on 24/7. They are a boon to the grid, as where Bitcoin, I just said this in the last space I was in, ERCOT can call up Marathon on a hot day in June in Texas, and they're like, hey, can you shut down for a couple of days? We'll write you a check for $10 million. They're like, no problem. And they're offline. And that's literally takes less than a minute. And they're balancing the load where that AI data center, it doesn't care whether it's 110 in your neck of the woods. It needs to be on because it needs to run 24/7 with no stops in power. And this is why it's inflationary. Yeah, this is another great one. Daniel Batten pointing out that Earth Day should be highlighting Bitcoin's amazing capabilities to capture wasted energy and utilize it to, obviously stabilizing our grids and mitigating methane. This is why, teaching the youth about Bitcoin is so important. And when I hear the youth boo Bitcoin, I'm like, wow, they got you totally programmed. No, it's not a CIA operation. I don't know how many times. I would think that, people this week should realize it's not, right? Clearly, if a 4-star admiral in the Navy, I don't know if he was naval intelligence. I don't know his total title and role. But when a 4-star admiral, that's perfect segue into that one. But let me just finish real quick. When a 4-star admiral is telling you we run a node, we don't do any Bitcoin mining, it's a psyop. Right. And the other thing is, I'm pretty sure it was 9, 10, 11. I think it was 2012. There was internal memos going around the CIA to all the departments asking for cryptographers that understood SHA-256. So if the CIA invented Bitcoin, why were they looking for engineers and cryptographers that understood SHA-256 to help them understand Bitcoin? Oh, because they didn't build it. That's why. But yeah, play the clip. This is the same thing. We're talking about the admiral from the other day in the congressional hearing, and here's the Wolf's take on it.
This story is crazy. The U.S. military is running a Bitcoin node, Admiral Paparo reveals. This admiral went on the floor of Congress the other day and was asked about Bitcoin as a tool of national security. Now, we would have expected him to say that the United States should hold Bitcoin in a strategic Bitcoin reserve, that it's not an infinite asset, that it's important who holds all the Bitcoin. But he said something much more important and much more telling. He said that the military is running a Bitcoin node. They are not mining Bitcoin. They are not hoarding Bitcoin. They are directly plugged into and monitoring the network because it is a matter of national security, specifically naming China. He said this is not an investment strategy. This is testing the system. And how could the Bitcoin network be used to the benefit of the United States military? for secure communications, because there's no single point of failure like every other system that the United States military uses, for data integrity, because a blockchain cannot be altered once something is entered, and of course, for something that has independent infrastructure. Now, Jason Lowery wrote the great book Soft War years ago and has talked about how Bitcoin is a matter of national security. Finally, the military is starting to catch on, and the Bitcoin network is in the crosshairs for the United States military. As you can see, my premise from the beginning of the show, that crypto is becoming more powerful and more important for many reasons around the world is very, very clear.
Yeah, again, it's not just the nerds anymore that are figuring out that Bitcoin is this amazing, again, not just monetary protocol, P2P protocol, but it is reshaping the face of energy production, energy use, grid balancing, methane mitigation, solar and wind deficit cycles, where, like we've discussed on the show many times, where there's, you know, groups of months of the year from like April to June where it's not super hot yet in many parts of the world, and there's tons of solar farms and or wind farms generating tons of energy and nobody's using it. And those operations, if they're too small of an operation, eventually they run into these months where they can't sell any energy, and then they just collapse in on themselves because they run into these energy surpluses, which create these monetary deficits in their budgets, right? And that's what eventually makes them fail. It's not that they don't generate power, it's they don't can't sell that extra power to people when they need to generate more revenue. Now they hook up ASICs and it's April and it's 55, 60 degrees out in Tokyo. And guess what? TEPCO's doing this right now. Boom. They're shutting down that portion of this solar farm and they're mining Bitcoin because now they realize, why are we going to waste this energy when we can generate the most liquid, strongest, hardest asset ever created in the history of the world? When people say there's no applications, right? We had a whole show based on how many applications will be built around Bitcoin. It will be thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of applications, from heating systems to hot water heaters to televisions to dryers that mine Bitcoin. I'm sure somebody's working on that one as we speak, because dryers use so much damn heat. It's coming, right? I've even seen people use ASICs to, like, you know, make dehydrated food and beef jerky and stuff like that, right? Like, so somebody's probably working on a food dehydrator based around an ASIC, right? Like, it's not a stretch, right? Watch, we'll see a video on one in like 2 weeks, right? So the applications are limitless if you understand thermodynamics, you understand that Bitcoin code is the law of the land, right? I said this in the last space, and I said this probably like in 2020, 2019, I forget what year it was, but Bitcoin is the new Trans-Union Pacific Railroad, right? It's going to revolutionize how energy is made. It's going to revolutionize how our infrastructure for energy is built. It's going to revolutionize the grid, right? There's so many weak parts of the grid all over the globe, from the United States to India to Russia, right? Where you add in Bitcoin and it makes that weak grid much stronger, because you're putting this excess energy that's on that grid that at certain times it can't handle it, but it can go click and be like, sorry, and back off of the grid and let the other part of the community use that energy, whether it's a business district or a community, etc. And that's the huge difference. This is one of the main reasons that Bitcoin, and we just discussed this, right, is far superior. It can go offline. A mining operation can go offline. Whether it's monetized or not, that's based on the local energy suppliers and energy producers. Like we've discussed earlier in the show, when it was in I want to say 2018 or 2019, and all those miners in the southern China lost their equipment floods. That's an unmonetized. That's it, right? That's a net loss. But luckily they're Bitcoin miners, so they had tons of Bitcoin, and we're like, oh. And then eventually China's like, you got to go. And a lot of those guys just left. They just picked up everything and just moved to Texas and moved to El Salvador and moved to Paraguay and moved to South Africa and moved to Kenya, right? And these guys are like, in some cases, weren't just yeah, it's not rumors. I saw video footage, right? I saw guys like literally from their phones, like you could see their ASICs just under, like the higher ones were okay, but the lower ones were like underwater. So this isn't, speculation. But the cool part of why these miners started to leave China is because they're like, oh, you don't want us around. And some of these miners were multi-millionaires, not just like a couple million, really like 100 million. They were worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and in today's Bitcoin price, probably they're billionaires now. But that's the power of Bitcoin. It is such a powerful tool and asset and protocol that people have no idea. This is why, well, going back to that video from, I think, Bankless, talking about how these people got access to Mythos. This is why everything needs to be encrypted, right? And Bitcoin kind of forces our hand to talk about encryption. Yes, there we go. It wasn't just rumors and speculation. This has happened multiple times. It gets to their rainy season, and the Yangtze River in certain parts of the country just floods because they're in a way lower elevation in the valley, and it's a floodplain, right? Just like they have them on the Mississippi, and just like they have them on the Volga and the Danube. There's certain parts where, yes, there's lots of mountains and beautiful stuff around, but you get to parts where the land's just flat, and if it rains a lot more, or they got a lot more snowpack, and it's a really warm spring, boom, the river gets too much water in these flatter areas, and it just floods, and that's the way of the world. And again, in some instances, like I said, those guys after that, they're like, we're out of here. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And then the rest jumped ship when China was like, you must go. And again, that's to this day, I still think this was the biggest economic faux pas that China's ever pulled, is like kicking, people with boatloads of money out of your country because you don't understand the technology yet. It takes like somebody like me who knows a lot about Bitcoin. I'm still learning new stuff about Bitcoin every day or so, right? And that's how amazing a technology it is. You'll never fully understand Bitcoin. I don't think I'll ever fully understand Bitcoin. I just know that again, it's the most important discovery slash invention ever come up with in human history. And again, it's all over I don't have any tweets about this, but the last couple of days, I guess this new documentary came out, and yeah, I do want to check out that post as well. But that new documentary came out talking, I think it's called Finding Satoshi. I've been sharing my article because everyone's like, who is it? Is it Helfini and Sassman? Nope. But I will share my article on the post of this live when Nick is sharing out like the YouTube. I guess he puts out like another clip of the actual whole episode. When that comes out, I will make sure to be posting links to my Medium article on there. Go check it out. I think it's one of the best and most well thought out pieces on who Satoshi is. But yeah, go play this. This is the CEO of Pantera, Dan Moorhead. But this is what he thinks about to happen. I think we might have shared this a couple weeks ago, but it's needless to say, this is coming because, like I said, China has, I think, the #1 producer of solar energy in the world now. But go ahead.
Realize, like China, super crazy to have 1,000 years of your life savings stored in an asset that Scott Bessent can cancel. That is crazy. It's way smarter to buy Bitcoin. And so I think within 2 or 3 years, there will be an arms race with 3 or 4 groups, regions, each trying to buy 1 million Bitcoins. And you just want to be long before that happens.
Yeah. Oh. You just want to be long before that happens. I totally concur with Dan Moorhead on this this opinion. Oh yeah, there's my article. I know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Pardon me, Blue. Good to see you, buddy, but you got to get down. I highly recommend it. It is pretty technical and a little bit long, but if you like technical papers, you will enjoy it thoroughly. I know that I do, I like reading technical papers, but there are people that don't. If you don't read it. But I think it's a well thought out piece. I did spend a lot of time on it. I think it was 2021 or 2022 when I wrote it. The date's probably on there somewhere on that Medium post. But yes, I highly recommend reading it. You can just go to my Medium page and check it out. I highly do recommend it. But no, I don't think it's Hal Finney and Len Sassman. Someone pointed it out, I think, yesterday on X that Sassman didn't even like writing in C++, and that's what Satoshi wrote most of Bitcoin in. So again, getting back to the theme of today's show, we're going to kind of take a tangent on why I've warned about Ethereum and why the L2s are totally problematic. So this week, proving my point, why stablecoins aren't your friend, right? Now, it's awesome that they froze all this money for the people that it's their money, right? Obviously, that's the good part. The bad part is they can freeze Tether, right? Surprise. We've talked about this many times. The bad part is the hackers got to your money. Oh, why is that? Oh, because I've said time again, I've warned about OP rollups. Here's the tweet from the other day, right? I should find the tweet from like 2 years ago or 3 years ago where I even pulled up, audits like on Ethereum's L2s to show you here's problems. And I circled like, oh, wow, look, you can spoof the order and fool it into thinking you have all this Ethereum in your wallet when you don't, or vice versa. And I was like, oh, that's not good. But But the Arbitrum Security Council has taken emergency actions to freeze 30,766 ETH. This just proves my point, right? When I scream at the mountaintops that everyone thinks Ethereum's so great until another problem, right? Until another issue. And here's just another one. It's multiple problems all folded into this big like dingleberry burrito, right? Like, I hate to go there, but it's true, right? Like, it's not just one problem. The hackers clearly got to this stash of ETH somehow, right? Through a broken smart contract or a bridge or whatever it was, right? And again, we get, if you look at the trail, it's like this form of, fake ETH going into this form of fake ETH, and we're taking that form of fake ETH and we're staking it over here. And I've how many times I said, oh, that's always a big red flag for me when people are like, hey, you want to get on this new project? And they're like, oh, we've got like 30 different tokens that are some reason importance. And you're like, no, I'm cool. But yeah, let's check out the Simon Dixon video about how you can, again, this is another reason why Bitcoin is far superior than AI, right? If you don't want to participate in these wars anymore, you should be saving some of your savings in Bitcoin. And let's let Simon finish that thought, and then we'll wrap
How
it
we
up.
win. They will use Bitcoin to make their system more powerful. I've submitted to that. We're not going to fix the system. But what we can do is opt out and boycott the system, which is exactly how Bitcoin was designed. So you can home mine if you want to compete with the central bank. You can hold it in self-custody if you want to compete with the custodians. And you can buy Bitcoin if you want to compete with the Fed. And then you can take your wealth and you can join a lobby if you want and try and change the system once you're wealthy. Or you can just opt out of the large, thick portfolio companies and go local. Support your farmers, support local spending, support your local communities, wherever you can. Don't borrow against your Bitcoin unless it's part of a managed plan and it's a minority of it. So you can boycott the Fed by owning Bitcoin. You can boycott BlackRock by holding it in self-custody rather than ETF. You can boycott the banks by not borrowing against it. You can boycott transnational capital, multinational institutions by building your own parallel supply chains. Once you become sovereign, get out of cities, go urban, like build your own parallel systems, parallel networks. Build your own decentralized social media platforms. We contribute to that. Invest in companies that are investing. The real battle, there is no borders. There is no country. This is a technical industrial complex, police and surveillance state that is being built by FIC. And the best you can do is exit and just don't support it. And we were given that gift. Satoshi Nakamoto open sourced this project. I believe originally this was meant to be an intelligence agency project. And it came out as open source code. And that open source code had many, many infiltration attempts at centralization. There were hard forks to try and put us onto a new chain. There were trying to get us into stable coins. There were attempts to centralize developers through funding different companies. There were every attempt. There was centralization of mining. There was all sorts of stuff. But the network remained as decentralized as it could be, where there was a geographically diverse network of Bitcoin miners in countries that hate each other. Some private, some public, some sovereign, some national, some international, some decentralized around different structures. We managed to keep the node networks where we could keep the miners accountable as long as you run your own node. We were able to fight back against the custodians by opting out of the exchanges. And every time someone left it in an exchange, they got rug pulled and they started rebuilding in self-custody, having more resilience by owning their own Bitcoin. And when every time they tried to infiltrate the developers, we get competing implementations. We get competing node structures. We get hard forks, soft forks. We get an open source boardroom when we take our eye off the ball, somebody comes along and says, hey, why were they doing these things? You know, why was, who are the developers? We need to understand more about them. And suddenly we get all those attention. So all this to say, I am extremely hopeful and grateful that we are able to exit, we are able to boycott. And I spent my whole life, and it wasn't until 2011 that I discovered there was actually a way of doing it. And anybody can do it. And all you need to do is implement some simple rules. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference in sovereign assets. If you want to do it with gold in self-custody, fine. But Bitcoin in self-custody is where you can exit your country when your country gets too oppressive. You can send it to anyone in the world when you want to support new supply chains anywhere in the world. You can self-mine from anywhere. You can take cheap energy in one country and you can plug into a self-mining network. You can memorize a phrase and you can take that with you wherever you want to go. And nobody can take it unless they physically get you. You can spend it in an innocent until proven guilty system. And no central bank can debase it. That changes the world for you if you use it the way Bitcoin was originally designed. But they're going to try and steal it. They're going to psyop you into custodians and centralization. And we've all learned it. I fell for them all. The reason I can share this is because I've done everything wrong in Bitcoin in my 15 years of being involved. So I have massive hope. And what is the future of the world? The future is decentralization, no doubt about it. We need decentralized social media. We need to take what we did in Bitcoin. We need to take layer 2 payment networks. And the only people that are going to make this are sovereign individuals, sovereign companies, and sovereign countries. And as these big constructs break down, have no doubt about it, this is the deconstruction of federal government structures replaced with transnational control grids. It's only the people that are opt out that are going to have the skills of owning their own private keys and the security of knowing how to protect themselves. And there's only going to be a few people that do that, sadly. And you're the ones that are going to be the elites that effectively bring a new form of responsibility. And so build those parallel systems, because it's at the end is you, your family, your community, and the people around you and the systems you build.
But yeah, as Simon's stating, this is why it's so important, right? They're going to try and do all of this monitoring, right? It's not just monitoring of your data anymore, right? It's monitoring of your position, monitoring of your speech, monitoring of your language, monitoring of your actual economic transactions, right? Oh yeah. This is the probably the shortest version of this. And yes, I shared this out the other day, so I'm glad you found it. Look, guys, it's actually really straightforward. A bunch of people staked their ETH on the Ethereum blockchain to earn yield, except they didn't want that their capital to be locked up. So they actually staked with a liquid staking protocol called Lido, who provided them with a liquid staking receipt token called STETH, little STETH. Except they decided to juice their yield further by depositing their little STETH receipt tokens into a restaking rprotocol called Eigenlayer. Except they didn't want to lock up their capital, so they actually restake with a liquid restaking protocol called KelpDAO, who provided them with a liquid restaking receipt token called RSETH, except they decided to juice their yield further by depositing the RSETH tokens into a lending protocol called Aave, so they could open a leveraged looping position that borrows ETH against their RSETH collateral and restakes the ETH into RSETH, which then deposited as collateral. Except it turns out the RSETH used a cross-chain bridge called Layer 0 that was hacked. Oh, it was a bridge. Oh, shocker. A bridge called Layer Zero that was hacked by North Koreans. Yeah, and who was one of the first persons to say that the North Koreans were doing this? Hi. Yeah, just saying, people listening in. Uh, North Koreans caused RSE to become uncollateralized, and now these looping positions are stuck and unprofitable, and everyone is pointing fingers at each other. And also, DeFi is a very serious industry. um, Again, this is why I warn about all of these silos, right? All these L2 silos and these companies. If you're not using ZK rollups, zero knowledge proof rollups, you're in for trouble, right? I warned Coinbase about this multiple times. And then one day, another one of these scams happened on base, and they're like, we're done. We're switching from optimistic rollups. They didn't say they were going to ZK, but what's your other option? So thank you to Brian Armstrong. I applaud you for being the first major L2 to realize that OP rollups are horrendous for Ethereum. And just here's another example of why, being an Ethereum fanboy for a multitude of years, I run away from this kind of stuff now. Because again, oh yeah, we took this token and we staked it here, and they gave us another fake token, and we staked that token here, and then we got another fake token, and we staked that token here. And somebody figured out they could hack this bridge when people are literally moving their stuff from, one L2 to another L2, and they just reach in like they're reaching in, like to a stream of water, and they're like, oh, thank you, oh, thank you. And then, yeah, it's literally a third. What is that? Holy moly. A third of $1 billion, just a third of $1 billion. Holy moly. That's locked on and on Tron network, right? So you're just learning other things about these protocols, right? They're not decentralized. Yes, it would really suck if these people lost all of that money. But again, I'm pointing out it's not just one problem, right? It's not just Ethereum has holes in its security. It's also now this you can see, oh, Tether can freeze funds. Oh yeah, boom, look, you're learning so much about the industry in one tweet, right? That all of this stuff isn't decentralized as Bitcoin and or Litecoin are, right? These things all rely on AWS servers, and if those AWS servers got attacked, you're not messing with Ethereum, right? And that goes for pretty much anything that doesn't have a multitude of nodes out there and or a multitude of miners in conjunction with that network, right? So there's a whole lot of protocols, 0x protocols as I call them, that run the Ethereum virtual machine, and which makes it very compatible with all these other networks and protocols that run in tandem with them, but can create these security flaws, right? And this is why, again, like I said, as being somebody who was a Vitalik fanboy for many years, when I started to have these issues happen to myself at a micro level, I lost a couple $100 on a Binance project running the EVM, right? It was like only maybe $200 to $400. I forget the exact amount. But when I lost those funds, I was like, this sucks, right? This is horrible. Like, if anyone else had this happen, they, luckily it was only a couple $100. If it was their life savings, they would literally be contemplating horrible thoughts, right? And this is why Bitcoin's far superior. Litecoin, anything that has a node of a serious node network with a serious mining operation behind it, I'm trusting way more than this stuff, right? As you can see, 344 $1 million locked up. And how long will these people not have access to their funds? I don't know. I don't know if it's a few days, a few months, but it's not cool. And the Bitcoin network, the Lightning network, it's going to, as Simon was saying, allow us to get around these controls. These, now that they can literally have all these controls around our digital lives. The next evolution is, we can not just monitor their transactions, we can stop their transactions, right? And this has been already proven, right? This is not sci-fi, right? China's done this multiple times where there was the incident. Hi, Blue. Hi, buddy. Yes, get down. There was multiple incidents in China where one was a few years back where the banks, there's this chunk of banks were going down. People were trying to go protest. They pull out their phone to go to their ticket, their pass for the rail line, and it's shut down. They can't travel because they were monitoring their social media or their WhatsApp or whatever, and they're like, you're flagged, and then they flag their rail pass, and then you can't go anywhere. So you can't protest. So again, this is why we need Lightning, we need Bitcoin, we need Litecoin, things that are hardened by people using the networks, and they're hardened because it is a proof of work network. And that's why the show has been named thusly, because I'm so adamant about proof of work networks and not proof of stake. As you can see, there's another problem with proof of stake. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it's still pretty small. In China, a single social media post that deemed, there we go. That deemed disinformation by government can cost you 50 social credit points, leading to arrest and blacklisting. So they're telling you they're monitoring your social media posts. And if they don't like what they see, they're dinging your social credit score. And don't think they don't want to bring this to the West. That's what's all of like this casual attitude towards what China's doing. We should be doing. Remember, there's that clip from a congressman or senator. We should be doing what China's doing so we can monitor everybody. What, bro? That's 1984. Hello. But this is why we need Bitcoin, because Bitcoin protects us from these 1984 scenarios. All your money's in WhatsApp, we're shutting down your WhatsApp. All your money's in your bank account, we can tell the bank to shut down your bank account. They can't shut down a Bitcoin wallet. That is why so many people fear Bitcoin. But the majority of the population of the planet, once they figure this out, it is why Bitcoin will become so priceless, because it will get people around these systems, and it already does, right? Like, look at Iran. Iran, has been asking for payments to get through the Strait of Hormuz. They've been utilizing Bitcoin for years, right? Let's be very clear. Iran's been mining Bitcoin since like 2020. At first, people were doing it illegally in like mosques where they were trying to hide it from the state. And then when the state found out they were doing that, they shut down some of these operations. But at the same time, they're like, wait a second, these people were taking the Bitcoin and then selling it for this other, for like Tether or USDC. It's probably Tether, let's be clear. And then we can take that Tether and then buy stuff with it or put it into a wallet and do other stuff with it. Yes. And this is speculation, but this is what I saw somebody saying. This is one of the reasons that we attacked. Another attack vector of the Iran situation is this was done to upset the IRGC's mining operation, which is basically what we were just discussing. They learned to mine, and then take those Bitcoin funds, and yeah, and again, for them to say this out loud, right? They're letting you know that you wouldn't just come out and say this, right? There's the preface behind this. The backstory is, oh, we've been mining it and selling it on the side for Tether, and then using that Tether to buy stuff around the world. Surprise. And again, it's not a big surprise, but if Iran's doing this, right, and El Salvador's doing this, and Bhutan's doing this, and all these other countries that are secretly doing this right now, they get it, right? They understand why it's important, and it all comes back to the Admiral's video. This is how we're projecting power. We all understand, pardon me, Blue, that the internet and energy are crucial for the maintaining of power. So if you aren't investing into Bitcoin's development, infrastructure, using of it, or hodling of it, you're going to miss out on, again, you're still early, but everyone's starting to figure this out, right? Morgan Stanley launched their ETF. It's their best launch ever. We have this news of the Admiral. With the other big story this week is the Putin signed into law their Bitcoin law, which their Duma passed with flying colors. So read the cards, right? Read the room and read the cards on the table. Everything is going towards a crypto economy, a Bitcoin focused crypto economy. Does Ethereum still play a role? I'm sure it does. But as you can see from the information we just shared, another example of why I don't mess with Ethereum that much anymore, because there's just too many problems, and Bitcoin doesn't have this type of problem. Litecoin doesn't have this type of problem. Lightning kind of used to have this problem. It doesn't have this problem anymore. So when people are afraid of using the Lightning Network, I tell people why. Yeah, there it is. State Duma adopted in the first reading a bill regulating the circulation of digital currencies. So read the writing on the wall, read the room, read the cards on the table. We're about to head into this Bitcoin and crypto revolution. And obviously the king is going to lead the way, and that's, BTC. Everything else is secondary. It's just, why do I say Litecoin's important? Because once the rest of the planet figures out Bitcoin, or just 20% of the planet figures out Bitcoin, the network becomes very congested at some point, right? Especially people trying to do L1 transactions. If everything moves to Lightning and Lightning becomes Turing complete, which is a possibility in the future, then I think Bitcoin has no issues, and there is no secondary networks that come along. But there's already these secondary networks that are moving hundreds, and we just saw hundreds of millions of dollars around the globe. So I reason that these secondary networks will exist because just people do like choices. I know the maxis hate hearing that, but people like choices, right? There's a reason why Android exists, and there's people that hate Apple, right? There's people that hate Android. They'll never do that. So there will always be people who are like, I'll never use Bitcoin. And if, they're like one of these stablecoin people that are like, I love stablecoins. I'm like, but I get it. There's people out there like that. You will run into one of these scenarios, right? Where your money gets locked up, frozen, alleged in some crime, and they're like, oh, you can't touch your funds right now. And the first time that happens, you're going to be like, hey, where's that Bitcoin I have? Because they can't stop a Bitcoin transaction. They can't stop a Litecoin transaction. I even said this, even though I'm not a huge XRP fan, I'm pretty sure they can't stop an XRP transaction. I'm pretty sure they can freeze funds, but their transaction, the transmission time on XRP is so fast, it's impossible for them to like be like, oh yeah, we're stopping that. It's already in the wallet, right? Even though, like, again, I'm not a huge XRP fan, it's, in my opinion, safer than some of these ETH L2s. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up on there. Let's thank all of our sponsors, Quantum Expeditions, Shieldfolio, Deorganized Media, and everyone that has a show on the Bitcoin Live Network. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And the name of the show was Bitcoin is Better Than AI, and I hope I demonstrated that today. Take care. Peace.